Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve reunited. It feels so damn good. Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube. On this Wednesday evening, Steve Pulaski behind the microphone, joined once again after his first absence in the history of the revived program. Dominic Guanzon, he's back and better than ever, more refreshed than ever, healthier than ever, looking like $1 million, a whole snack, and it's not even Thanksgiving. Joe Viso as well on the theater screen. It is great to see you gentlemen on a Wednesday night. And Dom didn't really gripe in the green room about being tired like Joe and I did. Daylight savings time is kicking our asses this week, is it not?
You would think like getting that extra hour of sleep would have helped, but no, it is throwing me off so much right now this week.
I was wide awake at 7 o'clock in the morning on last Sunday, or this past Sunday. Wide awake at 7 o'clock in the morning, which is like technically 8, you know? And I went to bed at like 2, like right when the time changed. And so I couldn't even enjoy it. And then I was waiting for football all day at noon. By the time 12 o'clock rolled around and I had been up since 7, it felt like 5:30. I was ready to go to bed.
It's insane. I mean, like literally just that 1 hour difference and the fact that the sun is just gone, like when like you least expect it, it throws you off so much. Like yesterday, I legit was like, oh man, I'm like, I gotta go to bed soon. I'm like, it's probably like 10. I look at my clock, it's 6:30. I'm like, get the hell out of here. What is happening to me?
You're working adults now.
Yeah.
I know. Not that we're trying to make this a topic on the show, but it seems that Republicans, Democrats, socialists, fascists, Marxists, objectivists, and everybody, libertarians, communists are all in agreement that daylight savings time sucks. Why is it still a thing?
I thought we were getting rid of it at some point. I thought that was
we were supposed to, but then the bills stalled because they were too busy trying to figure out, because it didn't make them money. They couldn't steal money if they stopped daylight savings time. So they Illinois led a big campaign to stop it.
They did, yeah.
And like, I was really hoping they'd push it through or something. Cause I was like, it was like in the pandemic, I was like, we got weed, we got sports betting, we got sports books. Come on, daylight savings time. I'm like,
I feel like they put more gusto in. I feel like they put more gusto into the daylight savings change than they did the freaking progressive tax, which did not pass, but whatever.
Can you imagine if Illinois, though, was just like, we're going solo on this, no daylight savings time, and we just get our own time zone?
That's like some North Korea shit. I'm not joking.
Isn't it true? And I've not spent a lot of time in Indiana. Isn't it true? And Indiana's like the armpit of the Midwest. Sorry, Indiana viewers. But tell me I'm wrong. But anyway.
You've offended my stepbrother, Anthony, who's probably one of the viewers of this show.
Oh, shout out Anthony. Appreciate you for watching if you do. One of 18 people that live in Indiana. But like, yeah, aren't there parts of Indiana where like it's a different time zone? Like south of the state is a different time zone from like the north side of the state?
Yeah, there is something like that because of just how wide it stretches. That I think there is a different time zone.
That's ass
situation.
backwards.
I mean, I know, right? It's kind of weird.
And I don't think you could buy booze in Indiana on Sunday either. I don't think you can. I think that's still a law.
Yeah, that's true. I actually do have a friend, so one of the other 17 that lives in Indiana, works in Indiana at a gas station, and yeah, they can't sell on Sunday.
I remember driving to Cleveland to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we were in Indiana, and I was looking at my phone, and it went just 1 hour ahead like that. I'm like, oh, we're in Ohio. My friend's like, no, we still got like 2 more hours, then we'll be in there. I'm like, well, where the hell are we then? The time just jumped.
We just went in the Bermuda Triangle. Well, again, tell me Indiana is not the armpit of the Midwest, though. But anyway, we got a great show today. It's not all bashing Indiana and the uselessness of daylight savings time in the year of our Lord and Savior 2021. But
why not?
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it, because I could keep going. But anyway, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We got a new review of The Harder They Fall, the new Netflix movie, Western movie, interesting Western movie, lot to chew on with that. I literally just finished it like an hour ago, so I'm freshened for this movie, to say the least. We got to talk about Emilio Estevez. I love Emilio Estevez, but this story has kind of a negative rep so far. And at least we waited till, obviously the show to talk about it, because we did get some more news on Estevez today regarding him leaving the Mighty Ducks Disney Plus series. Emilio Estevez does not come in the news very often, and it really sucks that this is why he's in the news now. But anyway, we'll get into that to end the show. That's not going to be a very long discussion, I don't think. And we got an update on the illustrious Sure Not to Die in the Next 6 Months story, Rust, the Alec Baldwin production. We've got that. But really quickly, though, Dom, how are you? You missed last week. It's good to have you back, brother. How are you holding up?
Yeah, just a little enlightenment on the Sleepless with Steve lore. Last week was hell in terms of work. So I'm actually very glad I took off from the show, because it was wall to wall, back to back, some crazy hours. Like on Saturday, I know, Steve, I know this means nothing to you, but for me, someone who works somewhat normal hours, as inconsistent as they are, I had to get up at like 4:30 on Saturday.
Sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Being a morning bird, early bird, is actually kind of awesome. It's just the switch, right? Just the switch of doing it. But
100%.
it's like you, Steve, where you mentioned this a while back, probably off camera, but it was like, yeah, once you like get into that rhythm and like you accept that's your life, or that needs to be your life or whatever, it's actually pretty awesome getting home at like 2. And like, yeah, I got the rest of the freaking day, bro. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I take like maybe 2 naps a week. I just kind of overload myself with stuff, so I don't usually have time to take a nap. But then there's some days I can usually figure out by like 1:30 after I eat lunch if I'm going to need a nap. If I'm going to need a nap. And I needed one today, actually. Funny enough. So I've reached my nap quota this week. But moreover, let's jump into this. Let's jump into this story with Rust. I didn't foresee talking about this, but I saw something pretty startling. There's actually breaking news regarding this. It's not really what we're addressing because it broke shortly before the show, but it's worth mentioning, though, that the first lawsuit in this cataclysmic disaster has transpired now. Alec Baldwin, the producers of the film, the armorer, and the first assistant director are getting sued now by the film's gaffer over the fatal shooting that killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins. The gaffer's name is Serge Svetnoy, and he filed a complaint of general negligence. So that is now breaking. That's the first of sure to be many lawsuits. We're not going to touch on that too much because that's not what we were prepared to discuss. I honestly think that the lawsuit to me is not surprising. It's newsworthy, but it's not surprising. It was only a matter of time before that happened. This, on the other hand, is a totally different thing. And if this isn't a sign that this production should be shut down, I don't know what is.
No, I agree. It actually goes hand in hand, I think, with one another. It seems incidental, but maybe it could be if they fully investigate it and they find out all the details and they found out it was completely random. But all signs are pointing to no. This is part of a larger systemic thing of how this production was run, and it's a mess.
I mean, it's more drama on the still developing story. A lamp operator and pipe rigger on the set, his name was Jason Miller. He was working on tearing down the set in the production in lieu of the production being shut down after the death of Helena Hutchins. And he was tearing down the production. He was bitten by a brown recluse spider. Now, I don't know too much about spiders. I know I don't like them, but a brown recluse spider is one of the more famous spiders because of the fact that it's venomous. And you can die from these spiders. Like, these spiders are vicious. These things bite. They're big. They're ugly. Oh. These are the reason. Like,
I pulled up a photo of it, and it's just like my arachnophobia.
No, don't do that.
It's going off the rails
I'm not
now.
even watching the stream. I'm not even watching the stream, so I don't care. You could show a montage. I ain't watching it. I'll be cursed when I have to edit this. But anyway, poor Jason Miller, he's experienced necrosis, which is the rapid death of cells in a particular location in your body. In his arm. He's experienced necrosis in his arm and sepsis. And sepsis, essentially, that's one thing I actually knew what it was. I didn't know what necrosis was. But sepsis is when like a foreign organism enters your bloodstream, and then it kind of accelerates the process of organ failure or total limb failure as well. It's 2 things you do not want when you go to the doctor, believe me. But Miller has underwent multiple surgeries each day to stop the infection and to prevent amputation. And it was a concerning quote from the doctor, from one of the doctors who's been examining Miller throughout this. They say it will be a long road to recovery if the medical team is able to save his arm. So that's frightening. That's terrifying. That just goes to show you the power of these spiders too, and the venom that's in these things. And in addition to the article that we were reading, Sky News, I believe it was, Lane Looper, the camera operator who resigned the day before Hutchins was tragically shot by a prop gun at the hand of Alec Baldwin, he said that safety and welfare concerns for the crew prompted him to walk away. He added that as well. And he noted 2 accidental discharges of firearms and 1 of special effects explosives on the set days before Hutchins was ultimately killed. But I mean, Dom said it earlier. It's the desert. It's New Mexico. There's going to be creatures, scorpions, spiders, snakes even. There's going to be these random assortment of potentially dangerous creatures going to be lurking about. I'm sure there's way to prevent it and everything. But this doesn't help the optics, and this certainly doesn't help the idea that this movie is going to continue. I mean, it's of the least concern at this juncture, but it doesn't spell good fortune for an already tainted production that somebody died on set of, and the resounding effects are going to continue for the foreseeable future, at least until a comprehensive investigative report is released by the investigating officers and departments. Dom, we missed you last week, so I'm throwing it over to you. You get first word after me.
Yeah, I don't know the union rules on like pesticides or bug control or whatever. Tried doing a little bit of research. It's a little specific, but it feels like something that maybe you hire someone to watch out for if you know this is the kind of environment that you're shooting in. I don't know. In terms of culpability, we don't have as much information on that. It seems more like this is more believable in a sense that this could be a freak accident as opposed to the death of Hutchins, where like there's a gun with live rounds in it. But it's just really unfortunate. I would love to see IATSE's official take on this, or perhaps potentially maybe they did have it covered, or like the union was supposed to have it covered and they didn't, and maybe IATSE's also in trouble here. I don't know. We don't know the full story quite yet, but this sucks, man. This is a cursed movie, and at some point I'm going like, so are they just gonna not finish? They're just not gonna finish this movie, right? Because like this, how do you move on from this? Not just, of course, from the spider thing, but someone died. They do that with stunt performers. Stunt performers have died, and on set, and they still finish the movie and dedicated to them and stuff. But I wonder, because this is more of a, I don't want to say indie. Would it be accurate to say indie? I don't know. The term indie is it flips around with me, but it's not like a Deadpool 2, where it's like that is a big franchise, big cultural thing. People are really into that. However, someone did die. I believe it was a woman. She died on a motorcycle. She was a stunt woman, but of course they finished and completed that movie and released it. So, but we'll see about Rust. I don't know, dude. I don't know how you move on from that. It's a freaking mess. And real quick, because I kind of told Joe to pull this up, so I'll go back to the shooting real quick. Just real quick about the lawsuit. It is against not just the armorer and the first assistant director, but also the producers, one of which is Alec Baldwin, according to the lawsuit, and really any chance to show the fancy lawsuit papers, because I love doing that. But really, because the use of guns and live ammunition in motion pictures amounts to an inherently dangerous activity, the producers of Rust had a duty to hire persons trained and experienced in carefully overseeing the use of firearms and ammunition in the filming of the motion picture, yada, yada, yada. Next paragraph, notwithstanding their responsibilities, the industry standards, the fact that the screenplay for Rust contained violent scenes involving the use of firearms and ammo, blah, blah, blah. Their conduct proximately caused plaintiffs injuries. So in that specific, they were talking about the gaffer, whose name is Serge Svetnoy, but because that's what the lawsuit is specifically citing, less so Hutchins, but it's just a sign that Alec Baldwin. There was a lot of dumb takes of people blaming him at first because he pulled the trigger. Then everyone ran to his defense because, we don't know the full details yet. And this guy, it sounds like he could be, and it could be just a freak accident. But now we're going back to as the details are finally emerging in full force. This is he is. There's culpability here. This whole Rust incident, the shooting and the spider bite, is going to be a case study. They're going to teach us in university. They're going to teach us in OSHA classes. They're going to teach us in safety classes, up and down, especially in union
undoubtedly,
and film school. Like, there's going to be a class in film school called workplace safety or set safety, and this is going to be the introductory case to that class. This is going to be a textbook for the industry for decades to come. This whole thing is a mess, and honestly, the more details that come out of it, the longer we go along, and the more details come out, the worse it keeps getting. But the truth is coming out, and I think, say what you will, I'll finish up on this. Say what you will about the whole, we don't need guns in movie sets anymore. I don't know about that. Safety, of course, but I don't know about like just CGI all weapons. I think you're eliminating hundreds of union jobs.
That sounds like an in the moment overreaction.
Yes.
It always has. That sounds like a way too hard overcorrect.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah,
what it comes down to is just like, you just needed somebody responsible on set to know what they were doing with dangerous equipment like this. It's like that with explosives when you're on a Michael Bay film. It should be like that for any other film. Honestly, treat every film that you work on with a gun, bombs, whatever it may be, like a Michael Bay film. Act like that thing's about to go off any second, and like if you don't do your job correctly, you're gonna die, or you'll kill somebody. Like, to me, the whole news of this, I am also in agreement that this won't go on. This production is just gonna stop, and this movie will never probably come out. It's funny that it's a Western. We're talking about Westerns too, but I don't think we'll ever get to see this movie. Some people were also saying, is Alec Baldwin ever gonna get work again? Yeah, of course he is, but like, this will always be a controversy that just surrounds him and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 60 minutes interview at some point with Alec Baldwin or something. Like, he'll be on some talk show being interviewed about the aftermath of all this. But again, I mean, in retrospect, when we look at this story, think about what we were talking about like 4 or 5 weeks ago. We were talking about Yahtzee and everything they were bringing up on why they were going on strike. And then they settled it. And all of a sudden, now we have this movie that everybody now is on board with. What do you mean there weren't safety precautions and everything? It's like, okay, so now when the next time Yahtzee goes on strike, I better not go on social media and see people being like, why are they complaining about them having to to work in these conditions? I bet it's not that bad. You're on a movie set and everything. Like, you get to work with actors.
You should be lucky.
Like, why you got to live my Marvel films? Like, it's just like, now we see why it's important to have this stuff, because somebody died. Somebody might lose an arm here. And don't act like you weren't invested, because if you were on social media, and if you're one of those people that never gets off social media, you were invested in this story in some sort of way. Don't lie to yourself.
The story here isn't guns. The story here isn't really Alec Baldwin. He's the face of it, but that's surface level. The real story here is negligence, greed, rush
cutting
production,
corners,
rush deadline, cutting corners, workplace safety, and how unions have it's the same shit that our unions have been arguing for since literally the Industrial Revolution. So it's a tale as old as time, and I will say I cannot wait for the documentaries and movies about the production of this movie. They're going to come out in the years later.
That's next.
That will be
That's
the
coming to
Sleepless
Netflix
reunion
next year.
Yeah, exactly.
That's coming
Knowing
to
Netflix,
next
that
year.
knowing Netflix, that documentary is going to come out in January. So whatever. But yeah, dude, this is honestly, I would not be surprised if we talk about it at least one more time before the end of the year. This story.
And I mean, it couldn't have been more. I don't want to use the word serendipitous, but it couldn't have been more coincidental or hand in hand that we talked for 2 weeks back to back about the IATSE strike. We talked about that at length, and then we went into, and then this happened. And that was the first thing that came to mind, honestly. And Dom, you're really the one who brought, I think, the IATSE strike to both of our attention. And then when I was doing the research for the show then and stuff, it didn't take me long when I was making notes when we first addressed the Rust incident that like these two things are linked. They're not hand in hand. IATSE couldn't have foresaw what took place on Rust, but it's part of that.
Yeah.
It's part of that. I mean, you want a case study in why IATSE was going to strike. That was exactly what it was, too. And then it only is more fitting that you have all these crew members. You had a walkout, for Christ's sake. You had the walkout, and then you have these crew members coming out talking about the gross negligence that took place on set. And now you got the first of what is sure to be many lawsuits and this one filed by Serge Fetnoy. So it's only going to spiral from here. And yeah, I agree with Dom. We're probably going to have to address it again. Either there's going to be some finding or something by the end of the year. There's going to be some tidbit, man. Because let me tell you right now, there's some things I maybe could have foresaw with the events that, have occurred afterwards and such like that, like the armorer coming under fire or something like that. The first assistant director having a hand, even past misgivings from the people that worked on this movie on other projects and stuff. I didn't foresee a brown recluse spider playing a role into this thing either, but and so it goes. That's one of my favorite phrases I learned this year from my buddy's girlfriend when I had my mother pass in August. And so it goes. And that's kind of how it's gone, with this whole thing. But we'll move forward. We got a movie to review. And it's a movie I'm looking forward to talking about. It's fresh in my mind. Just finished it like an hour and a half ago. It is called The Harder They Fall. Directed by James Samuel, his first major production, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he made like a medium length / short film a few years ago. Stacked cast, man. James Samuel pulled some strings, and the production company and Netflix behind this, man. They got everybody on board with this thing. You've got Idris Elba, you got Zazie Beetz, you've got Regina King, you got our great kind of a staple last summer, Delroy Lindo. It was cool to see him back, hot off the Five Bloods, a performance that still I feel like needs more recognition. You have Lakeith Stanfield, you have Jonathan Majors, who plays the main character here, Damon Wayans Jr., RJ Seiler, Danielle Deadweiler. There's a lot of really good people in this thing. Top to bottom, we don't get Westerns often. Furthermore, we don't get a lot of Westerns that aren't directed by Taylor Sheridan. Not that there's anything wrong.
We also don't get enough Westerns with this large of a black cast as well.
Honestly, yes. Even Wikipedia says this is one of the only Westerns to feature a predominantly black cast. And there's no real token white character either. Yeah. There really isn't. There's no recurring white character here who's, at least in a broad sense.
There are white people, and they absolutely play into that in one hilarious scene.
Maybe the best scene of the movie, I would argue.
I think so too.
For a lot of different reasons.
But yes, it is, dude. If you're like jonesing for Black Panther Wakanda Forever to come out, like you can't wait for that to come out and relive the first Black Panther time, this will hold you over very sufficiently. This is a good time.
I was trying to think of a good pun there, but I really can't. I'm not good under pressure with stuff like this.
I was gonna say like Black Stallion. I don't know.
No, I'm not really sure what you could do with it. I'll think of it when I'm in the shower after the show. But anyway, The Harder They Fall, though, it's on Netflix. It's worth watching. It's a revisionist Western that definitely takes a lot of inspiration, I would say, not just from Tarantino, but also Django Unchained. Not so far because you have a predominantly black cast in a Western setting, but the style here is very much a Tarantino influence. And I think where it comes down the most, and I wish I would have watched this last week when I had scheduled it, because it would have given me time over the weekend to listen to the Rock Nation soundtrack that came with this movie as well, because I do want to listen to that. It's the music choices in this thing too that make that the blending of like classic music, orchestration, hip hop, reggae, pop, R&B. It's got that Tarantino flavor that permeates it from the very beginning. On top of the fact that it's also just bloody as hell and it's violent as hell. You know, this is a hard R-rated film, but I mean, off the cuff, I'm not going to say it's perfect. I'm not going to say it's great, but it's very good. There's a lot of stuff that's here. This is another career performance, I think, from Idris Elba. And I think that there's a lot of stuff for the cast to kind of take these characters, because it's a lot of popular Western characters as well. Mm-hmm. You have Nat Love, who was a cowboy and slave during the American Civil War. You have Rufus Buck as well, and it revolves around the Rufus Buck gang. It was a multiracial gang that was part of the was part African American and part, I believe, I want to say Creek Indian. I want to say that's what it was. The research I did earlier today. Stagecoach Mary, Cherokee Bill Pickett. So you have a lot of characters from Western lore that are sort of reimagined. And interesting enough, too, the last thing I'll just add about that too, is it's not like they are. I mean, Jesus Christ, these people existed before I think sunlight was invented. You know, so like. It's not like you have like historically famous, I mean, they are famous, but historically relevant characters, you know, with history everybody knows. James Samuel and company, they take a lot of liberties with these characters, and they've almost become like superhero characters in a way where you can kind of rewrite their backstories and tailor them for projects like this. And I think it works out quite well in most regards. Joe, what say you?
No, I was going to add on to that. Bass Reeves, Delroy Lindo's character, that character actually, like, you know, his whole thing back in the West, he was actually the inspiration for the Lone Ranger. I actually found this out today. I was like, oh wow, all right, that's pretty cool.
If there was any character that was the most accurate, which isn't saying a lot, because there's a lot of this is like people's lives are completely changed from what happened in real life. But if there's any character that is as accurate, at least in the facial department, it's Bass Reeves, because this dude apparently had more than 3,000 arrests and killed 14 of them in self-defense alone. So it's like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, man, he needs a biopic. Badass. He needs a biopic yesterday.
He'll get his spin-off with this movie. But no, I kind of want to go into something here. It's just, I'm glad you brought up Django. I'm glad you brought up Tarantino, because I'm not going to lie, when this movie first started, I had to adjust to it for a hot second, because we have been seeing Westerns for the longest time now, just kind of being very, what's the word? Like realistic, grounded Westerns like Hostels, or even just you want to go with like modern day Westerns like Wind River and
Hell or High Water.
Hell or High Water, yeah, that was the one I was trying to think
of. It's the revisionist Western, which has become the standard.
It was just like, you know, the very serious dramas, very cold, you know, dark movies that don't deal with some depressing topics from time to time. Very much trying to live into what Clint Eastwood did with my God, I'm forgetting like every Western name.
Unforgiven.
Right now. Unforgiven. Thank you. Where I was like kind of
excellent. I just watched that back in September. We brought it up last week, I believe. Yes, that's the movie that stayed with me this year.
And like that kind of just set the tone for Westerns here on out. That like started coming out after Unforgiven. It was, for a while I was just sitting there. I'm like, oh man, like why am I like just not adjusting to this? I'm like, oh my God, wait. This is being like a stylized Western film. This is going back to like when Westerns were like basically the comic book genre back then, where like they were coming out by the dozens, having like cool big action scenes, having like a staple character like the gunslinger, the badass chick who owns like a bar or saloon, you know, all this stuff. Like they were hitting every staple, and it's just like, okay, it's one of these movies. And then once like I kept my mind on that, this movie is a blast, man. This is by far, I think, one of the best movies Netflix has put out this year, in my opinion. In terms of production and just, you know, entertainment, I think like this is a big this is a big W for Netflix, man. The sets in this movie, I love looking at them. They are colorful. This town, Redwood, that Idris Elba runs, it is like at night when they go there, every building has a different color to it. Everything's popping. It looks like a Dick Tracy cartoon, but in the West.
I was gonna add that. Actually, that's what it reminded me of.
Like, it was so cool. Like, it very much has like comic book, like not elements of it, but like a comic book feel to it. Where like even they do like the panel thing with scenes where it's like there'll be like a split going down, and one character will be on one panel, another character will be on the other, and it's just like, oh, this is so stylized, so cool. It doesn't go overboard with it. It doesn't go overboard with the modern music as well. It keeps that to a limit. It uses it like, and even use like Jamaican music, which I thought was pretty cool. And then when you get to the final shootout in this movie, man, I mean, it is bloody, it is fun, it is everything you want a big, empty town Western shootout to be, man. It hits every note I think it needs to. And like Steve said, it's not perfect. It does have some cliched moments that, even though, like, I get it, it is trying to be like these Western films, so it's going to hit those moments. It's still, like, just times I'm just like, yeah, but we could have done better in some departments. Like, you know, there's just a few Western cliches if you're familiar with Westerns. Like when the gunslinger show off kid was, you know, showing off, I'm like, all right, I know what's eventually gonna happen to this character and everything. But that's not to say that I didn't have fun with it, and I thought the entire cast here was amazing, man. Seeing Jonathan Majors and Delroy Lindo team up again in another Netflix movie was so cool, because I thought they were great together in The Five Bloods as father and son, and just to have them be like partners in crime to go take down Idris Elba's gang. The Rufus Buck gang, I was like, man, this is perfect. And the fact that they also left it open as a sequel too, that there is sequel potential here. And if you actually read up on who was supposed to be in this movie before COVID happened, we had Wesley Snipes in this. We had who else? There was a ton of other, like
Sterling Brown, Cynthia.
I think actually
Sterling K. Brown.
Sterling K. Brown, okay. yeah. There was gonna be a ton of other like big popular black actors, and I'm kind of glad now they left it open to a sequel, because I would totally be down if they want to explore like this whole stylized revisionist Western world, where they take these characters and just do cool stuff like that with them. Like if they want to give Delroy Lindo his own spin-off, I'm totally down for that. Or if they just want to make a sequel but then bring those actors back to play different characters, I'm so for it, man.
Before we take our intermission, Dom, your general thoughts on The Harder They Fall?
Yeah, general thoughts. Honestly, it's just really exciting to see the history of Westerns kind of evolve in this sense. Yeah. Maybe not evolved, quite 10 out of 10. Maybe didn't quite stick the landing in some regards, but it's definitely evolved through this. Honestly, I'm very glad that both of you guys were also thinking Tarantino as well, because after Django Unchained, Django Unchained, that Westerns, certainly they're kind of in the shadow of that, all of them. And this
even
movie,
the Hateful
instead
Eight, like I saw people be like, man, it's nothing like Quentin Tarantino's Django. I'm like, it's the same guy. It's just like,
yeah, it's literally the same dude.
I remember just people leaving the theater being like, oh man, like, you know, this guy should like see Django Unchained. I was just like, it's the same director.
Oh, I like the Hateful Eight better than Django.
Same.
Truly,
I think I do too, and it's just tighter in many respects. But anyway, Westerns after Django have kind of been in the shadow of it, and this movie, instead of like trying to break away from that somehow, it embraces it still manages to evolve, and it takes advantage of it takes advantage of it is a strong word, is the wrong word, but really fully realizes the fact that, hey, the history of Westerns has always been kind of racist. But you know, when they started in the 50s, 60s, it was and 70s, it was super candy coated, whitewashed as shit. And that's why Blazing Saddles was the thing that changed Westerns forever. And that's how we got our revisionist Westerns. Now everything was gritty, dirty, bleak, just the most violent shit you can think of. And then that became the standard to the point where people didn't even recognize the term revisionist Western. That's why I'm kind of dropping that term a lot. But people don't even recognize that as revisionist anymore. That is the standard. And then Django happened, and then that kind of put a real twist in it and added that racial element, that element that has been blinded for so long. It's been touched on, and certainly in decades prior. I think Unforgiven had Morgan Freeman in it. But yeah, I really need to watch that. I think it's another one of those movies that I watched in the background as a kid. But anyway, yeah, Harder They Fall it goes back while still progressing the genre. By that I mean it kind of embraces the ridiculousness of it. It's like, hey, we're not trying to be hyper realistic. Like the third person that dies in like the first 5 minutes of this movie, straight up, by the time he gets shot the third time, does a full backflip somersault. Like, it's not even a shot. He doesn't get hit with a shotgun. Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't get hit with a shotgun. It's a pistol, right? He just does a full on like sardine shrimp backflip. I'm picturing, I had to pause the movie because of how ridiculous that shot was. And I loved it. So in that sense, it's like kind of hearkening back to that, kind of being ridiculous, kind of being like story timey, but it's full on like, no, these are black characters and this is a white person's world. So there's going to be the shadow of that on top of it. So overall, and seeing, of course, this is a who's who of black actors here in the 21st century. And it is incredible to see them, all of them in action.
The fact that, like, I mean, they got like any black actor, like, you know how in Black Panther people were like, oh man, they have like literally every black actor you can think of that's like, you know, big and popular now. It's like The Harder They Fall managed to do that as well, and choosing people that I don't think were in Black Panther at all.
If we do get a sequel, I mean, I want knowing that Snipes was originally attached to this, I want Wesley Snipes and I want Daniel Kaluuya featured prominently.
Yeah, dude.
So that's my wish list for the next one.
I didn't even see the cast list. All I saw was Regina King in a random image for the movie. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. Because Regina King is like my North Star when it comes to pretty much any movie, which is like, hey, if she's in it, then I'm in, because she's just a badass in everything. Baby. She's beautiful. She's a badass, and she's kicking it. She's 50. Are you freaking kidding me? She's only 50?
She's only 50. Wow.
Oh my God.
She made one of the best movies this year for us too, in my opinion.
Yeah, One Night in Miami. Don't forget. Yeah, One Night in Miami. That was this year. Oh man, technically last year. I think it came out. It was one of those. Christmas releases.
Yeah.
I'll leave it off with this: is that it just didn't quite. You had this great setup and this great cast of characters and actors playing them, but it just couldn't quite find the perfect blend to make the best story that I think it could have told. And with that, I'll take it to Steve.
We will go to intermission. We'll talk some more about the criticisms we have, because I can piggyback off of Dom's. I'll let you pick up where we left off after the intermission. Take a brief Zoom-sponsored intermission, as I like to say. Be back in roughly a minute and a half with more thoughts on The Harder They Fall. It's Sleepless with Steve. back. We better than ever. We Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube after our Zoom sponsored intermission. Got another topic coming after we finish our review of The Harder They Fall, the brand new revisionist Western, now available on Netflix. Has lingered in the top 10, I think, since it's been released, truthfully. It was number 3 yesterday. I know that. I think it was top 5 today, too.
There's a lot of good word of mouth getting around this movie. I saw a lot of people on social media that were just like, man, it's a badass Western film.
Yeah, and Westerns are generally a tough sell to the American public. They've gotten better. Yeah. They've gotten better. Like I said, 3:10 to Yuma. We touched on this last week, I believe. 3:10 to Yuma and True Grit really, helped kind of the PR around Westerns a little bit more, kind of revitalize them and stuff. I mean, yeah, you had Unforgiven, you had Tombstone, you had those movies and stuff, but there was like a period in the early 2000s where we got like no Westerns. Unforgiven put the genre to rest, deservedly so, for good reason. But, now we get this one, and Dom brought up a good point earlier, and I think that's kind of the lasting sticking point with this movie too. Or I think it was Joe, actually. I want to give credit where credit's due. Because Joe said, too, we're so used to getting Westerns that are really grim and dark. It's kind of, like I said, it's the Sheridan, it's the Scott Cooper sort of state of mind where it's like they're bleak. They show, not only are they bleak, but they show, like, the gravity of death, which is something that even classic Westerns did not do. Yeah. Very well, at least. And you got that here. Where this movie, the body count's very high. But you do have a lot of color and a lot of style, as well as recognitions of the consciously or subconsciously sort of prejudiced undertones that did placate a lot of Westerns, classic Westerns. It's not a perfect production, too, and I don't want to make Dom's point because I think Dom and I are going to be pretty in line. But, Dom, get into your criticisms, too, because I got a feeling you and I are going to be pretty in lockstep on what you want to say.
I'll even front this by saying that director James Samuel, also known as stage name The Bullets, which is that's somehow you made that awesome. That sounds ridiculous.
He's got the coolest spelling of James too, as well.
Yeah. It's like the fact that looking at his Wikipedia page, so what do I know? But his Wikipedia page, his filmography is literally 2 short films about, I think, They Die by Dawn and then Jay-Z Legacy.
No, and Jay-Z did produce this movie too.
Oh, that actually makes perfect sense.
Soundtrack, because it's Rock Nation soundtrack. Yeah.
Dude, this guy knows how to network because it's all coming. It all came together for this film, and the fact that he has pulled this film off, and did really freaking well with it, with seeming. I'm sure he's done so much homework. What am I saying? Just looking at his Wikipedia page, but in terms of what we can see here, it's really not too much, and the fact that he can pull this off is incredible. However, he's like the
rumor of cinema. He just came out of nowhere and killed it.
Any excuse to mention rumor. But the screenwriter here is screenplay by Samuel, and then Boaz Yakin, who does not have a lot of heavy hitters. Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights, Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. What I'm getting at here,
he did something I saw recently too, Boziak, and he did a Max. That was a dog movie from like 6 years ago that nobody saw.
Oh, right? the marine dog.
The marine dog.
Yeah, which I honestly liked. He was the military
I didn't see
dog
it.
in Afghanistan.
I can't judge.
Anyway.
I just like seeing a pupper in
Did you
body
see
armor,
Max 2, the White House Hero, though?
No, I drew the line there. He also did Remember the Titans. That was the other big one. Okay. I couldn't think of.
He directed that one. He didn't write it.
He did write Now You See Me as well. That's like another big one he's done. I don't know if we mentioned that.
You know what? You're right, actually. Hey, you know what? That actually connects perfectly into what I'm about to say, which is that this film, even though it was directed pretty damn well for a freshman director in terms of feature films, the kind of the writing, not even the dialogue's okay, and in fact in many cases it's pretty damn good, but just the parts of the plot, the story, it didn't deliver. I'm not even saying it's bad or that it's in any way that it's just lacking. It's just it's like a fireworks show that didn't have the big finale at the end. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this has been a consistent, good 10-minute fireworks show. I'm seeing all the classics. I'm seeing some new ones. They got some nice shapes. They got some nice colors, and they got a nice spread of the place. The finale was that a finale?
It's
I'm not even talking about the shootout. I'm just talking about how the characters get here.
Yeah.
The potential of the characters. There's a lot of loose ends, a lot of wasted potential. Like, for instance, we were talking up Delroy Lindo as Bass Reeves. You could have written that character out. There was no point in Bass, story-wise. He's a badass, don't get me wrong. It's great. But, like, there was no point really in the story to have Bass Reeves in there. Like, am I wrong?
His arc is not even an arc. It's like the first half of an arc that just does not like come to any kind of curve.
Like they're trying to do like I love the thought of a dynamic that like between Nat Love and Bass Reeves. Like, okay, you have like a Lupin the Third, Inspector Zenigata, kind of like thief and policeman, but they have to team up to take down a greater evil. I like that. I really like that. But that was not in display at all in this film. He just became one of the gang, and it's stuff like that. Where it's like, Regina King, awesome. Like are you like evil? Like I can't. You had a really good monologue, but it didn't quite come up to snuff. And again, if I'm not making perfect sense here, it's because it's not that glaring of a problem. It's just lacking. It's less so there's a problem, and more so it didn't execute as well. Joe.
I hate to like put it like this, but like when you have like characters like this big and like defying like and like this badass and everything, and you have these powerful actors playing them, you can't help but feel like they should get a bigger, grander story to be told here, because the story it's just kind of like, this is what really it's coming down to, just this like it was over money and the fact you took his girl, and then that's it. I know it's a Western. Like, I mean, it's not going to be like he's going to destroy the world with his giant laser beam or something like James Bond level threat. Like,
or
I get that.
West,
I get, oh, yeah, a giant spider crawling towards town or something. I get that. It's just like, damn, maybe it didn't need a bit of more of that grim grit to it to kind of like captivate me a bit more. And maybe that's because we're just so used to that now with Westerns that like, the approach here was to go a little bit more just classic, like, easy to follow, easy to pick up and like see. We just want to entertain, but we want to do it with style, and we want to do it in a very cool, unique way where it's like a story that hasn't really, or a way the story has not been told yet, and that is from like a black perspective. And that could have just been the sole purpose of the movie. But I do agree with you that like, the plot just kind of seems a bit bare bones. It's like hearing, for if you want to use your firework example, like, hey, Universal, Disney, and Six Flags were uniting to give you one fireworks show. And you got it, but it was just okay. It was just like...
Yeah, you would think, okay, cool. It's like it's built, just the cast alone should build you up. And I didn't even watch it. But just as these characters come on screen, oh, shit. Delroy Lindo's here? Oh, what the hell? And it's like, all right. But like, I don't know. Here's another potential symptom of that, which is that Zazie Beetz... I'm going to even spoil this kind of small plot point, but it's like Zazie Beetz does become a damsel in distress. Yeah. She becomes a damsel in distress.
I kind of hated that.
She fights for it. She fights, and she is a badass in this film. They give her a good, strong opener. They make her own independent woman, but like, she still falls for the guy. She still, becomes, at the end of the day, look, I don't care which ways you try to skirt around the damsel in distress trope. At the end of the day, if the female love interest is tied up in rope or is a prisoner / hostage, and they have to get rescued by the male lead, that's the trope. Like, I'm sorry, you've done it. And I don't want to go to a full on cinema sins, but like when you're trying to be different in one way, I feel like you didn't quite deliver in others. And
you have a plot that feels very template too.
Yeah.
Very, very much like a Western template. It's very much a decorated sort of classic Western presentation. You know what I mean? You have, like I said, the all black cast, which is very rare for Westerns, extremely rare, to the point where I dare anybody, I can't name another one. You have that, one. But you have kind of a template script here that has all the inner workings. And it's like, well, if you're going to go the extra mile to revise a lot of this, the tropes, at least the characters, the presentation, and even some of like just addressing the conscious racism that took place in the classic Westerns, you should kind of do something narratively unique. You were saying,
hey, credit where credit is due. This was an all black hero cast. straight up shooting at an all black villain cast. Like all the bad guys in this movie that of the main bad guy team, they're all black. It's like, okay, cool. We're actually like, you have the balls to do this, as opposed to like, okay, all the black heroes here are escaped slaves and they're taking down the slave master, the white slave master. It's like, oh, we've seen that a billion times. We've even seen that in Django Unchained. They even try to mix it up with having Sam Jackson be a literal Uncle Tom. But in that sense, they
avoided that trap that would have made
yes.
this way too derivative despite the style.
Yeah.
Then it would have just been a carbon copy Django remake.
Yeah, it would have been way too on the nose right there. It would have been like, okay, hold on a second.
But at the end of the day, I think it really does come down to loose ends. Not even loose ends plot wise, but loose ends character wise, loose ends arc wise. Like there are characters here that are cool. They are cool at the surface, but they don't pay off. There are characters here that die where it's like, I don't mind them dying. In fact, there's even one character here where it's like, hey, that death, I'm actually cool with it because they were this way. This was their fatal character flaw and they paid for it. So I'm cool with that. But others, there's like 2 others in here where I'm like, this was a waste. And like you had a cool something here. So at the end of the day, it's not even that bad. It's just, I'll say this is the worst thing I'll say is that James Samuel clearly is a much more natural director or has done way more homework on being a director than he has being a screenwriter. And it's not even that bad of a screenplay.
At this point in time.
And please prove me wrong with your next masterwork here, because it got off to a damn good start.
Yeah, I completely agree too. And I also did like, before I give my final rating too, I just want to say too, I really liked Lakeith Stanfield as a villain. I really enjoyed that.
Yes.
I thought he was very menacing. And I thought that he was menacing, but not in like a dark, dastardly way. He was menacing in like the way like an actor, like he clearly loved it. He clearly loved being the bad guy for once. So he chewed every moment that he had on scene in the best possible way, lingered on certain words, lingered on found a really good swagger and adopted it and remained consistent with it early on. I have to say, I was very...
Joe, can you switch to Lakeith Stanfield's Wikipedia page? I'm like, look at this dude. He's been itching to be a villain. Look at this picture. Whoever put that there.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Look at the drip on this guy. Look at this Captain EO looking.
It is a photo of the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con. Man, I did not even know that. That's an image.
You think he chose that for himself?
It's like right there, man. Like somebody make me a Star Wars or a Marvel villain right here.
He went from, I don't think we've used our only F-bomb, man. He went from sorry to bother you to fuck you, it's my turn. Isn't that photo right there?
Yeah, and Lakeith Stanfield has always like played like weird roles, or just been like a weird guy in roles, and it's just cool to actually see him be like a weird villain. Like, he's just got like a code of honor like type of thing. And, like, he doesn't like violence, but he likes inflicting violence, even though he says he does. Like, he's just weird. Like, and it's just like Keith Stanfield did such a good job with that. And you know what? As much as I did like his performance earlier this year with Judas and the Black Messiah, this to me was way better and showed his range way more than that movie did.
Definitely. I'm going to give it 3 out of 4 stars. I liked it quite a bit. I don't know if I liked it as much as some other people did. But I give it 3 out of 4 stars. There's a lot to like about this movie, and even after talking about it with two people as or smarter than me, I can't wait to write the review after this show.
Dom, you want to go next? Since you were gone last week.
Yeah, I'll even say this has just edged over to 3.5 out of 4 stars for me. I was between 3.5 and 3. But at the end of the day, this is in my eyes has given life to the Western genre.
Yes.
Maybe I don't know how this will play out culturally in the weeks and months and years following. But for me personally, it's like, damn, I really want to watch some Westerns now. And in a way that some other gritty revisionist Westerns that I even seen this year haven't done. And obviously the all black cast is really, really cool, and I'm all for that, because as the opening text said, hey, this story is kind of bullshit, but these people existed. Like these people were real, and these people were here doing some badass shit. Uh, uh, Even beyond that, though, this was clearly done with so much passion and so much homework done behind it, that I cannot wait, honestly, to see what James Samuel does next here.
For sure.
The bullet, see where he strikes next. Yes, he needs some more, just a bit more work, giving us something satisfying, or not something satisfying, but rather giving us the complete, full, 100% airtight package that is the perfect screenplay. But damn, dude, this is your freshman effort after doing like 2 short films. What the hell, dude? This is awesome. I can't freaking wait. Joe?
Yeah, man. I mean, I completely agree with Dom. Like, I have a ton of friends who love the Red Dead games. And whenever I try to show them a Western, I'll show them something that's like what we've been talking about, Wind River, like all these things. I'm like, oh yeah, if you like Red Dead, you'll like this. And then they get bored by it because it's so grim, so bleak. But like over the weekend, they were texting me about this movie. Like, man, like this is one of the best Westerns I've seen. This is exactly why I love Red Dead. Like the shootouts, the look in it. It's just like, oh, they love the stylized stuff of Westerns. I'm like, okay. So like just seeing people actually like be reinterested in Westerns again, especially for myself who has loved the genre ever since I saw it when I was a kid. This was such a breath of fresh air, and it was great to watch it on Netflix with this big of a budget and this great of a cast attached to it. Especially in a year, in these past 2 years too, I would even say. I know last year we didn't get that many movies, but for me, like, the blockbuster scene has mainly just come down to comic book movies, and it's just like, this year, like, they've either been okay to good. I like Shang-Chi and I like Suicide Squad, Black Widow, Eternals, okay. Wonder Woman, we could throw that in that sense, came out at the end of the year. That was okay too. I mean, we'll see how Homeboy fares up, but like, I hope it's better than what we've been getting this year. But it's just like, damn, like, as much as I do enjoy, Shang-Chi and Suicide Squad, they do hit their tropes at times, and it's just like, I really wish they got to do something refreshing. This year, the spy genre like had its like big conclusion to an era with Skyfall, not Sky. Oh my God, No Time to Die.
No Time to Die.
And then we're getting the Kingsman at the end of the year too, like bringing that back, and it's just like that looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun, incorporating a war theme into that. And now we have a Western be this like great like refreshing look at Western films and stylized and everything. It was so great to come back to this and have it be this well done. I mean, his next film, James Samuel, his next film is called The Notorious 9. That just sounds like another Western movie coming out.
Yes, it does.
So that's gonna go off of like the Magnificent Seven. It's gotta be, and I'm totally down.
Magnificent
for it.
Seven, Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight, yeah, that's exactly what
he
I
was full. Wait, did he choose that because of it's like
7, 8, 9,
Hateful Eight? Nah, man. Notorious 9. He's full on embracing the fact that this is post Tarantino Western, and I'm freaking loving it. Like, just go for it, and you'll find something cool.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see what he does next as a director, and I can't wait to see what might spawn from this, whether it be the Western genre or anything else. It was such a cool movie. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Like how John Wick was a cool action film with how stylized it was and how choreographed it was. This was a cool Western because of how stylized it was and how big of a budget they threw at it and how much it paid off in the end. This is also 3.5 out of 4 stars for me.
Good stuff, gang. We won't go too long-winded on this. This isn't the kind of story that I like to focus on, really. But I do think the contextualization of it, too, is important. So I'm glad we got what we got today. And I'm also a big Emilio Estevez fan. I always thought he was the coolest member of the Sheen family, too. I still feel like a lot of people forget he's Charlie Sheen's brother.
Yeah, I actually forgot that for a hot second, too. I was like, oh, right.
Did you not know that Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez were brothers? Did you really not know that? And Martin Sheen's their dad?
Swear to God, I do not know that. My heart is on my heart. My hand is over my heart right now.
I mean, because the fun fact is Charlie Sheen's real name, not to go into the whole lineage, Charlie Sheen's real name is Carlos Estevez. That's his real name. And Martin Sheen, their father, his real name is Ramon Estevez. And when they broke into the acting world and stuff, Martin Sheen told Emilio that his biggest regret was not using his original Mexican surname as an actor and going by Ramon Estevez, just given the time and the landscape and everything. So Emilio did not want to be Emilio Sheen. He wanted to live on and be Emilio Estevez. And Estevez also does not do a lot of movies. I remember the last movie he directed wound up being one of my top 10 favorites of the year. It was a movie called The Public. And that it was set in a library. It was a hostage situation at a library. I've always liked Emilio, and I think he's an excellent, supremely underrated director. And he was in the crosshairs of social media and the like this week because not often does he find his way in the headlines. He honestly doesn't do a lot anymore when it comes to film work. Most notably recently, the Mighty Ducks Game Changers, the show that's on Disney Plus. But at any rate, though, it was the November 5th that Deadline confirmed that Emilio Estevez would not be returning as Gordon Bombay, the coach of the Mighty Ducks in the Mighty Ducks series Game Changers. And initial reports suggested it had to do with a vaccine mandate or COVID protocols on set. So immediately, and especially too, with the Aaron Rodgers situation being as bad as it is with the Green Bay Packers, with the disaster that has been, couldn't happen to a better organization, go Bears. But anyway, it's really, though, it's really kind of heightened. I think the Rodgers story has heightened something like this. But Emilio came out actually today with through Deadline, and he said that it was, quote unquote, I love the way he put it, nothing more than a good old fashioned contract dispute. Yeah. That's how he worded his departure from the show Game Changers. And he coupled it with creative differences on the show. And he also said in a long statement, he said, and I quote, "I am not anti-vax, full stop." That is the actual way that he started this sort of press release report.
However, towards the end, he simply put, "I am anti-bully." What the hell does that mean?
Yes. And the problem therein lies, and this is kind of the thing too, again, to relate it to the Aaron Rodgers story. Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show and talked for 18 minutes straight about his feelings on the vaccine and his own research. Full disclosure, we talk a lot on this show. None of us has ever gone on an 18-minute rant, number one. And number two, when it comes to PR, less is more. Less is more when it comes to PR, especially when you're in hot water. Politicians, that's the one thing politicians can often get right, is saying less is more. In Emilio's case, he writes this long thing, but never once does he clarify a vaccination status. Never once does he say anything like that. He could have put all of it to bed. Or at least just come out and say, personal choice, I'm not going to get the vaccine. It is what it is. But then, like Dom says, you throw in the term that stuck in my craw with the whole thing, anti-bully. And that's the thing. It's like, you're not anti-vax. Are you then anti the health mandate of the company or the production company that you're working for? Are you adverse to the protocols? He also did reveal, too, and this is why it's just really strange, that he contracted COVID in the early days of the pandemic. He contracted it back last March, and he was a long hauler in terms that he still suffered from symptoms and ailments as late as summer and fall of last year. Now, the interesting thing about that, too, is it kind of contextualizes. He's a pretty private person. I don't believe he's on social media. But he also didn't do a lot of press for this show, which I thought was kind of interesting. He didn't do, especially coming back and playing Gordon Bombay for the Mighty Ducks, as classic as that franchise is.
Yeah, when that show appeared on the Disney Plus carousel, I was like, when the hell was this ever a thing? I know, like, Disney Plus has its real big focuses labeled Marvel, DC, I mean, not DC, Marvel, Star Wars, and everything. Like, it's just like, but like, this is such a big deal for me too. I love that movie as a kid.
It's weird, though, that, like, he didn't do... I feel like Lauren Graham from Gilmore Girls, who's in the show, too. Yeah. I feel like she did more, like, talk show circuits than he did. And he was and she's kind of like a newcomer to the show. But Emilio didn't do any press last year for the show, really any at all. So it kind of checks out the fact that he was either sick or just kind of doing the bare minimum and stuff. But then he continues to go on in this statement about how he put his work over the priority of his own health, and that probably compounded the symptoms and whatnot. Whatever the case may be, whatever the whole thing. I do believe that a contract dispute is probably somewhere involved in this too, as such creative differences. I mean, he has been married to this franchise since its inception, I believe in 1992. Don't quote me on the year, but I think it was 92 when that first movie came out. But
same year as Unforgiven.
Same year as Unforgiven, indeed. It was
watershed year for Westerns and sports hockey movies about ducks.
Which then spawned the NHL franchise Anaheim Ducks, which Disney owned for a brief time as well, which was an interesting rabbit hole I fell down today. But yeah, Emilio's in the news. You're getting a lot of these stories, and I just feel like it's an odd kind of swirling and compounding of events. And again, at the end of the day, too, I feel like when you have to release a statement as long as the one that he did, you're buckling for something or you're covering for something. Quickly, after I just kind of went on a long-winded thing, what say you guys? Dom, I'll throw it over to you. Joe, you can have the final say.
Actually, I wasn't even thinking of in this context, but yeah, in the shadow of the Aaron Rodgers whole thing, which I don't want to go down that hole, but it's been a thing. And like, it is a mess for Aaron Rodgers, at least in terms of PR. It's like, yeah, this makes perfect sense as to why he's being wishy-washy. This is very politics. Like, dude, you are like you are channeling your dad in the movie with Aaron that Aaron Sorkin wrote, not movie, series.
Wall Street.
Yeah, not Wall Street.
Not Wall Street. What am I thinking?
God, I'm killing my joke here. But anyway, yeah, he played the president. But like, it's
the newsroom.
It's not the newsroom. Oh my God, it's
screw me.
I'm the Aaron Sorkin guy. I should know better. But anyway, yeah, dude, this
Steve Jobs.
Wishy-washy. Shut the hell up.
West Wing.
Yes, West Wing.
Thank you, Jesus Christ.
Daylight savings time sucks. Abolish it. We're tired.
Yeah, dude, this is very very steady PR. And it's just whatever, dude. Just, I would have respected you more if you just said, "Hey, I don't like the mandate. Therefore I'm leaving because of the mandate." But I get it. You got to play the game. So I don't even blame you that much. So just, at the very least, he left. Whether he was forced out, I don't know how much drama there was behind the scenes. Maybe more details will come out. I don't really care, but it's like, it's at least he went out with as little drama as he could, probably in the face of the Aaron Rodgers thing and everything else that's happening in terms of the cultural seismic shift we are with this very, very, very oppressive mandate that is get a shot that that like 5-year-olds are now sanctioned to get, and like shots we've been getting similar to shots we get when we enter kindergarten. But whatever, dude, that's a whole rant. So Joe, I'll leave it to you.
I got nothing much more to add to it. I will say this, I don't want to try to dig into drama here, but yeah, I mean, when you compare this to other scenarios or anybody else that has this whole anti-vax approach, Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's fully said it, but it's it's basically he's brushing alongside that, and look where that's going. Look, it's at least he did leave the show quietly, as Dom was saying, and I do respect him for that, because to me, it's I don't think he is an anti-vaxxer. Whatever the whole anti-bully thing is, I don't know. Because even when you read the article, he says, simply put, I am an anti-bully. My exit from the show was due to myriad creative differences. Okay, but what creative difference really procked you to be they're bullying me, that I need to leave the show then? Or just taking that stance?
Is the bully thing mutually exclusive to the creative differences, or is it the it's annoyingly vague.
At the very least, he's not coming out here and he's starting a whole thing on social media that's going to become a hashtag and everything, and then he'll join.
He's
Ben
not
Shapiro.
on Newsmax.
Yeah, he's going to join Ben Shapiro on whatever the hell her name is from Mandalorian on their next movie. That's good, whatever it's going to be called. At least he's not going down that road. He's hey, this is how I feel. I'm just going to be chill and cool about it. I respect the man for doing that. And not making this a big hoopla about stuff. It sucks. It's unfortunate. I like the guy, whatever it may be, and if he just doesn't feel safe taking the vaccine, that's his own choice, and if he just wants to keep it to that, by all means, that's okay by me. You're, and at least you're leaving.
And he's gone.
Yeah, and you're leaving. Like,
he's not infecting others.
He's not holding it hostage.
You started off this whole thing claiming, like, I take this thing very seriously. Like, I take my precautions. So if you are realizing that, let's just say you don't want to take the vaccine, and you're realizing that you might be a detriment to the workplace, even though you said the anti-bully thing, that you might be like a possible spreader because you're not doing it, and that you're just like, hey, look, I'll just leave then. Like, if that's just how it's gonna be, and you're gonna be cool and calm about it, whatever. Details aren't coming out about the story. I doubt they ever will. But at least the guy is being like, hey, before I leave, I'm not gonna leave this place like on fire, making you think like Disney did this to me. No, let me clear the air real quick. I really respect him doing that, because a lot of people wouldn't do that when leaving a project like this and just let it burn and whatnot. And it's cool that he was just like, hey, no, like, everything's cool. Like, watch the show. It's great. Like, I'm in full support of it. I'm just not going to be on it anymore. That was really cool to see.
Lastly, Justin Fields is not only vaccinated, he also talks to his family. And that's going to do it for Sleepless with Steve on YouTube. Appreciate you watching. Highlights will be posted, obviously, on the YouTube channel where you're watching later this week. And it will also be posted over at stevepulaski.com, as well as my review of The Harder They Fall, which I'm committed to writing tonight. It's been great chatting with you, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure. Dominic Guanzon, good to have you back. Joe Viso, thank you for pushing the button, sliding the sliders, clicking on the images, making sure they play. Indispensable part of the show, to say the very least. For these two gentlemen and yours truly, we'll be back next week with a review of Belfast, which is going to be in theaters on Friday. Until then, this has been Sleepless with Steve.